WOVU LP, Cleveland.
This is Open Door with Vince Robinson. In-depth conversations with people who are making a difference in the lives of others here and around the world. Culture is at the heart of who you are. Know your culture, find yourself on Open Door with Vince Robinson.
Hello and welcome to Open Door. I'm Vince Robinson, and my guest is Lynnette Howard. She is a Cleveland native, and she's done a multitude of things that I want to find out about right now. So I'll just start by welcoming you to Open Door.
Thank you.
All right. And Lynnette is someone I am familiar with through the Nia Coffee House. Once upon a time, we were doing spoken word events at the Coventry Library over there on Coventry. And Lynnette was someone who would come through and observe our performances. And I think she might have even participated in one or two. But we just recently reconnected, and I've been noticing Facebook posts and some really interesting stories that you've been telling, the narration through Facebook. So I thought it might be a good idea to connect and share your story with the world. So like many other stories on this program, yours begins in Cleveland. So here's your opportunity to represent your hood, so to speak, and give us that brief Cleveland biography.
Okay, well, I was born and raised in Cleveland. I grew up in the Glenville neighborhood, went to Columbia Elementary School, FDR Junior High School, and Glenville High School and Kennedy High School. So I went to both of those high schools. When I left Cleveland, I left in order to be an actress. One day I talked to one of my friends and I said, hey, you want to go to New York? And she said, yeah. So I went out and got a job because I only had 5 months in order to make enough money to go to New York. So, and you wanted more than that?
I think it's interesting that there seems to be a common denominator, because many people who I've spoken to on this program, their ultimate aim was to get to New York. And many of the folks that I've spoken to have also come back to Cleveland for various and sundry reasons. So talk to us about that experience in New York. Okay.
Well, I got to New York in 1996. I had enough money to stay there for 6 weeks and not eat on the weekends. After the 6 weeks, we had to find someplace else to live. So I found an uncle that had died and a cousin that I didn't know existed. So I stayed with her. I stayed at her place for about a month, and then we had to leave there. Then I moved to Y, stayed there for a little while. Then my mother found somebody in Cleveland and said, hey, my daughter needs a place to stay. So this lady lived in New York, so I stayed with her. And then by November of 1996, I got my own place, and I stayed there for from November 1996 until summer of 2005. And while I was there, I had the opportunity to work with improv group. We used to work in the parks, in churches, on the street corners of Harlem. We worked on 125th Street, which is very busy, doing improv. And I've also worked with different movies. I worked on The Sopranos television show, worked on Freedom Land, Find Me Guilty. I worked on As the World Turns and the old Cosby Show. When the World Trade Center, when 9/11 happened, I was working on a TV show called 100 Center Street. And so I went up on the roof and I saw that one of the towers was burning. And then I came back down and the director said that, hey, he was sorry for those people, but we need to keep working. So we kept working. Then next time I went back up on the roof, 2 towers were burning. And so I came back down, and next time I went up, One tower was gone, and then I went back up again. The second tower was gone. And whenever we finally finished and I went home, everybody on the train was looking all weird because of what had happened. So that was my experience with the 9/11.
That's an incredible story. How did it affect you?
I thought that I wasn't affected, but I went to ground zero to help out, and I was cutting some vegetables, and I started crying, and I went and called my friend, and I was like, I'm crying really hard because I can't cut these vegetables right. And my friend was like, no, Lynnette, you're crying because of what happened. I know you said it didn't affect you, but it really did. I was like, no, it did affect me because I didn't know the people in World Trade, the Twin Towers, but I knew the people in Twin Towers 7, which also went down that day, because sometimes people just think it was the Twin Towers, but I had worked with the people in Tower 7, so I was thinking since nothing happened to them that I should be okay.
So
I wasn't.
Okay, so are you saying that it affected you physically, or are you saying that it was just mentally processing?
It was emotion. It was I think it was emotionally, because I was hiding my emotions, thinking that this didn't affect me. Mm-hmm. Because I wasn't hurt, and but it did affect me, because I don't think I would have just cried over vegetables like my friend was telling me.
Right. So how long after you went through that experience did you return to Cleveland, or were you there for a much longer period of time following that? Well,
I stayed in New York till 2005 when my mother said that she needed me. So in 2005, I came back home because I'm the only child, and I didn't have any other siblings that could help her out with my dad. So I had to come home.
Okay.
And when I came home, I had agents and stuff calling me. People that I had tried to get with for years had started calling me. There was plays that people were calling me for. There was movies, commercials. I'm like, why didn't y'all call me while I was, there? But I finally got rid of my New York phone, which was good for me because I didn't want to know all the stuff that I was missing.
Wow. So you talked about working on the set of a soap opera and some of the movies that you were part of and other television shows. How did it happen that you were able to take off as an actress?
Well, I worked, a lot of the stuff that I did was like extra work, background work, and I would try to get like survival jobs so that I could have enough time to take off and run and do what I wanted to do, which it always didn't work that way. But that's the way that I did it.
Okay. Interesting. So you were working as an actress and in the entertainment industry in New York, and 9/11 happened, and then maybe 4 or 5 years later you come back to Cleveland. What happened upon your return to Cleveland?
Well, when I came back home to Cleveland, my mother was having a hip operation. My father had Alzheimer's, so she needed me to take care of my father. And I was supposed to, the operation was in April of 2005, and I was supposed to just come home for the operation, go back, clean out my apartment, and then come back and take care of my dad. But what happened was, at the nursing home, my dad got hurt. Somebody hurt my father, so I took my father out because he was only in the nursing home to be there while my mom was being rehabilitated, and I go get my stuff and come back and take care of him. But he got hurt, so I took him out and kept him at home. I never taken care of him by myself. I was scared, but I refused to let him go back, to the nursing home. And then a few days later, I went and got my mother out because they tried to kill my mom. So I got her out of there, and then a whole bunch of other stuff happened. But, I just saved my parents and protected my parents the best that I could.
Okay. Yeah, again, it's a very common theme that offspring return home to care for parents. I think it's the responsibility that we have for taking care of our parents because, of course, they brought us into the world, and it's our obligation to see them out peacefully. But I want to back up to the New York experience because, New York is the end-all, be-all for so many people, and you are one of those people who were able to go there and navigate it successfully until I guess nature required that you return to Cleveland. You mentioned working on The Cosby Show. What was that experience like for you?
Well, I worked on the last Cosby Show that he had, not the first one. Mm-hmm. It was interesting. I was in the block watch scene, which if you look at the block watch scene, you could actually see me in there because there wasn't that many people in it. But it was, we would sit there and they would do the show. And whenever your scene came up, you would come up and you would do your scene. It wasn't nothing that was out of the ordinary, especially for, taping a TV show. It was like the usual stuff.
Mm-hmm. And when you're working around these people that everybody across the country sees and, idolizes and whatever, was it an issue for you being starstruck, or did you keep kind of everything into perspective, or did you see yourself as, one of them and it really didn't matter?
Well, I never really was starstruck. I knew that I was there for a job, and I knew I didn't want to be thrown off the set, because if I was thrown off the set, then I would lose money. So I did my job. I didn't bother the stars, because if you bother the stars, then, you're gone and your money is gone. So, like I said, I just did what I was supposed to do.
Yeah. I can imagine, though, that you probably had friends and, you're having conversations with them about who's on set and all of that. And I'm sure that their eyes were wide open and the ears were wide open as well.
Well, a lot of my friends, I think, felt like the same way that I did. They knew that they were there for a job, and they knew not to, get in the way of the stars. For example, when I did As the World Turns, sometimes the stars would walk back and forth, through different areas that I was in. But I knew not to talk to them, because a lot of times when you're on set, you may not be saying anything, and it seems like everything is fine or whatever, but you could be going over your lines in your head. And these people had to go back on set, so I wasn't going to go up to them and start a conversation, because I knew that they had to go back on set, and they could be, just going over their lines in their head, just like I do sometimes.
Right. Interesting. Fabulous information. Enjoying the conversation and we will continue when we come back from our break. You're listening to Open Door with Vince Robinson on 95.9 FM WOVU, a Burton-Bell Car community radio station. Back in a few.
Are you a renter in Cleveland and facing eviction? WOVU 95.9 FM, the United Way of Greater Cleveland, and the Legal Aid Society wants you to know that you have rights. Certain Cleveland families have the right to an attorney in eviction cases. If you rent your home in Cleveland, have any kids living in that home, and meet low-income guidelines, free help is available. If you think you qualify, contact Legal Aid immediately at 216-687-1900. That's 216-687-1900. You can also apply by dialing 211 on your phone. After a quick screening, you'll know if you can get a lawyer's help for free. Learn more at freeevictionhelp.org. That's freeevictionhelp.org. This message is brought to you by the Legal Aid Society of Cleveland, the United Way of Greater Cleveland, and WOVU 95.9 FM. Our Voices United, a Burton Bell Carr community radio station.
You're listening to Open Door with Vince Robinson. My guest is Lynnette Howard. She is an actress, and I believe she's also a writer. And we were just talking about some of the experience that she had in New York as an actress, working on shows like As the World Turns and The Cosby Show and a few other projects that she mentioned. What are some of your fondest memories of those shows that you worked on?
Well, some of my fondest memories are actually of the shows that I didn't work on. Because I auditioned for the musical Menopause. It had never came out before. It was still in production. So I walked into a producer's office with my headshot and my resume, and I told him that, I wanted to work on it. And he was just surprised that I was bold enough to come into the producer's office. And I gave him my picture and resume, and I knew that I couldn't sing, but I was hoping that possibly there were some non-singing roles in the musical. So when I went to audition, there weren't any non-singing roles, so of course they asked me to sing, and so I started singing, and then I asked the piano player, not to play. I would do it a cappella, whatever, and that didn't work either. And I was like, okay, they're not doing no dancing or anything, but, I gave it a try. But I did the same thing when I auditioned for Dreamgirls. I knew I couldn't sing, but I wanted to do Dreamgirls. On that particular time, the director asked me if I could hear the music.
That's funny.
So, I had a lot of fun with some of the stuff that I didn't get.
Okay. Fascinating. This is also kind of pre-cell phone. So, back in the day, you couldn't just do the selfie or you couldn't sneak the picture. So, I'm sure if you could have, you would have wanted to.
Yeah, because like I said, I just was bold enough to walk in to the producer's office. I gave him my picture. I walked into another place before and gave them a picture and resume, and they called me, and I didn't know that that particular place you were supposed to have an agent, and I didn't. But then I had to turn them down, even though they were like some of the movers and shakers. I turned them down because what they wanted me to do, I was like, no, I don't care if it does, even if you are a mover or shaker or whatever. I'm not doing that.
Okay. So when you were growing up on the streets of Cleveland, did you ever have any idea that you would end up in a place like New York doing what you were doing while you were there?
No, because when I grew up, when I went to college, I went to Dyke College. I'm sorry, I went to Bowling Green first. I went to Bowling Green. When I went to Bowling Green, there were people there that were going to school for drama. And at 18 years old, I thought, this is terrible. You're wasting your parents' money by taking this. There's so many actors that are out of work, and why in the world would you waste your parents' money? Because with me, my parents always told me that, we didn't have a lot of money, so I understood about being poor even when I was like 3 years old because my parents explained it to me. And so at Christmas time, even as a little kid, I would only ask for one toy. So when I got to college and I saw these people wasting their parents' money by taking drama, I thought this was outrageous. So when I was 29, that's when I fell in love with acting. So 3 years later, I started doing what I told the other people were foolishness.
So what was your plan if you weren't going to be an actress and you were going to make the practical move and get an education that would get you a good job? What were your plans?
Well, from the time that I was a child, I always thought that I was going to be a CEO. I didn't know the title CEO, but I thought that I was going to run a corporation. I didn't know the title corporation, but I thought that I was going to run some big business. And that's why I didn't take typing in school like most of the other girls, because I felt as if I was going to have a male secretary to do all my typing. So when everybody else was taking typing, I was in band class.
So you were going to have a male secretary, not a female secretary.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Why a man? Just out of curiosity.
Why not? No.
Okay. All right. And so when you were studying, what did you study at Bowling Green?
Well, when I went to Bowling Green, I studied psychology, but then I went to a whole bunch of other different schools after Bowling Green, and I started studying marketing, and I got a certificate in advertising from the Cleveland Advertising Club, and I fell in love with advertising. So those are the things I studied. Also, I changed, every time I changed colleges or whatever, I would change my major. Because one time it was computer science, then it was this, then it was that. And so every time I changed, but whenever I fell in love with acting from just taking one class in acting, I decided, hey, I finally found, what I wanted.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have discovered in life, and I'm a little long in the tooth, but I've discovered that we're multidimensional beings, and we have this idea that there's one job for us, and that's what we're supposed to do for all of our lives. And some people, they work that job for 30 or 40 years. Things are a little different now because people don't have the same loyalty to companies, and companies don't keep people as long as they used to. But it's always fascinating to me to find out the diversity of interests that people have. So you talk about computer science, and you talk about psychology, and all these disparate occupations. What did you finally end up doing when you came back to Cleveland?
When I came back, I wound up being my daddy's nurse and doctor, basically, because after my mother passed away, I had to take care of my father by myself, because my mother, she, one day she told me, she said, I don't feel good. And then she laid down, and 5 minutes later, she was dead. So that meant I had to take care of my father by myself. Okay,
so you became a caregiver.
Yeah, I became my father's personal caregiver. Actually, I became my father's mother. Mm-hmm. Everywhere that I went, my father went. Mm-hmm. Because I couldn't leave him alone. So I would take him with me to the grocery store, and which in the grocery store I would have to have a wheelchair because he couldn't walk through the whole store. So what I would do was I would take my left hand and I would push my father in his wheelchair with my left hand, and in my right hand I would push the shopping cart. And once we would get into the store, when I would try to take stuff off the shelf to put in the shopping cart, my father would take his wheelchair and block the aisle, so I would have to stop getting the stuff off the shelf and get my dad. And this went through, we did this throughout the whole store, so it took us a while to get out. And then whenever we would go up to put the stuff on the conveyor belt to check out, then my dad would go and get in the way of the people that was coming out of the store and stuff. So it was different taking care of him by myself, because when I would go and put him into the car, he would bam on the door and open the door, so I would have to stop putting the groceries in the car and close the door, because my father would open it so far that he would hit the car next to us. So it was an interesting when I became my father's mother. It was extremely interesting.
Yes. So eventually, I'm assuming that your father made transition, and then how did you move from that phase of life into the next phase?
Yeah, my father, he did make transition. He got to the point where he was bedridden, he was paralyzed, and he was blind, and he was on a feeding tube, and he also had some other stuff, and I had to take care of all of that stuff by myself, so that's why I was his nurse, because I had to learn how to do that. I had to have a stethoscope to listen to his stomach before I would deal with the feeding tube, and I had to learn how to turn him by myself because I didn't have anybody, to help me turn him. So when he died, I was with him here in the house, and I was putting stuff on a stick so that he could suck the water. I turned to the left, and I would dip the stick of the water, then I'll put it in his mouth, and I'll go back and forth. And then on that last turn, when I turned back around, my father was gone. And after he died, which it was rough because both of my parents had passed away in the house. But after my father died, then I started taking a whole bunch of classes. I took like almost every class that you could think of, almost every subject that you could think of, I was taking. I wanted to learn how to create a computer. I wanted to learn a whole bunch of different things. So like I said, I took a whole bunch of different type of classes. And most of the time I was the oldest person in the class because a lot of times people my age didn't want to take, particular classes. So I just started taking a lot of classes. And then one year I just decided just to rest. And then I started acting again. When I started acting again, I think the first thing I did was Amen Corner. Terrence Spivey was the director, and Peter Lawson Jones was a star. So that was the first thing that I did after my dad passed. And then I did some other things like the following year.
Okay. And the result of all your studies, did it lead you to some other occupation other than acting?
No, because everything that I studied had nothing to do with what I'm trying to do now.
Okay. So what are you trying to do now?
Well, I'm writing a book.
Okay.
I'm almost finished.
Okay. And what's the nature of the book?
It's a book about tea. The funny things about tea.
About teeth?
Yeah.
Okay. That sounds interesting. Can you give us a few clues as to what this material might consist of?
Well, the name of the book is The Tea Spy. Kim drinks tea, not coffee. So the title gives you a little idea of what's about to happen.
Okay, it sounded a little muffled, so I didn't really get that title. Could you repeat it?
Yeah, the title is The Coffee Spy. Kim drinks tea, not coffee.
Oh, Kim drinks tea, not coffee.
Right.
Okay.
Emphasis on not.
Okay.
So.
Now, again, I want to make sure that I heard you because it sounded like you said teeth, but then I'm hearing you to say tea.
No, it's tea. Kim drinks tea,
yes,
not coffee.
Okay. All right. We're going to visit that book when we come back. You're listening to Open Door with Vince Robinson and my guest, actress and writer, Lynnette Howard. This is 95.9 FM, WOVU.
The Alcohol and Drug Addiction and Mental Health Services Board, also known as the Adams Board of Cuyahoga County, wants everyone to stay safe. If the stress of the pandemic is overwhelming, help is available. Call the 24-hour crisis hotline at 216-623-6888. That's 216-623-6888. If you are using drugs, remember all drugs may contain the highly addictive substance fentanyl. Please test your drugs and never use drugs alone. Carry Narcan in case you are witness to an overdose. And call the 24-hour crisis and referral hotline when you are ready for help. It's 216-623-6888. Again, it's 216-623-6888. This message is brought to you by the Adams Board of Cuyahoga County and WOVU 95.9 FM, Burton Bell Carr Community Radio.
Want a rewarding career with great pay and benefits? How about job security? Well, the City of Cleveland's Division of Police is currently accepting applications for patrol officers. And in the dynamic field of law enforcement, we are continuously changing and progressing while dispensing 21st century constitutional and fair policing. Call 216-623-5233 to speak with our recruiters or go to governmentjobs.com/careers/Cleveland. Apply today.
This message is brought to you by the City of Cleveland and WOVU 95.9 FM. Our voice is united, a Burton Bell Carr community radio station.
We're back on Open Door with my guest, Lynnette Howard. She's an actress and she's also a writer, and she was describing a book that she was writing. Now, I misheard her. I thought she said the book was about teeth, but the book is actually about tea. So I'm just curious about what kinds of interesting things we're going to learn about tea with this book that you're writing.
Well, you'll learn how healthy tea is for you. You learn the different types of tea that people use and what, like I said, what teas are basically used for. And you'll learn it in an interesting way.
Okay. So I know, I'm a tea drinker. I don't drink coffee at all. I gave up coffee probably about 45 years ago, and I was never really heavily into it. But I do drink teas, and when I drink teas, I look for the organic, the herbal teas, and I kind of stay away from, black tea. When I was in Japan a few years back, I was drinking green tea, but I don't really drink a lot of that either. Just because of the caffeine, and me and caffeine don't get along. So talk to us about some of the healing properties that teas have.
Well, with chamomile tea, with chamomile tea, that actually helps you to relax. It can help you sleep, and it has other properties. I like the echinacea teas. I like those because those are great for if you have a cold. You can always use echinacea, or it's a whole bunch of different things, a whole bunch of different teas. But, those two are, for me, those are like the main two teas that I deal with.
Mm-hmm. Any awareness of rooibos tea?
I'm sorry?
Rooibos.
I'm studying that right now.
Okay.
I'm studying that.
All right. Yeah, it's touted as a very healing tea. I know that there are a few other teas that also have healing properties. As a matter of fact, you can make tea from the roots of dandelion plants.
Yeah, that's what my cousin drinks.
Mm-hmm. And they say that if you have cancer, it can be very beneficial to you. I'm not going to get on here and tell folks that, dandelion tea cures cancer, because the FDA would be all over me if I did. but there are some definitely some healing properties that come from teas. They're natural things. What other teas could you suggest to folks?
Well, right now, peppermint teas. Peppermint tea actually helps you relax, and it also helps you, like if you have a cold or something like that, you can use peppermint tea to help you relax. I do that, sometimes, but, not a lot.
Okay.
And, and the spearmint teas, I do that every now and then. But it's like there's so many different ones that I'm trying to even think of them off of the top of my head. At the moment, I'm drawing a blank, unfortunately.
Okay. All right.
But like I said, I really like chamomile tea to relax with.
Okay. And how do you
I'm sorry.
How do you source your teas? Do you get them locally, or do you order them from distributors, or what's your process for obtaining teas?
Well, I usually just go to the store and try to find like the organic teas, and I like to purchase the organic teas, like the hyssop tea. I like that. I purchase that. That helps out a lot.
Okay. So you're writing this book about teas, but something tells me that you have an interest in writing other things. Are you working on any kind of screenplays or theatrical productions? What's the breadth of your writing interest?
Well, I was writing a movie when my mother passed away, which I think that I'll pick back up, because at the same time that I was writing the movie, I was reading magazines and watching the ends of DVDs, because this was a while back, because I wanted to learn how to use a green screen, because the movie that I was working on, I needed a green screen. So I was trying to learn how to use the green screen. I was also reading books on camera movement, because I knew if I was doing the movie, I needed to understand camera movement. So I was doing all of that at the same time that I was writing, because when I would write, then I would put the camera direction into where I was writing. So I hadn't finished it, but I was putting everything in. And like I said, and I was studying stuff. And at the time that she died, I wanted to go to film school, and I was thinking, how can I go to film school and take care of my parents? And then the next day she died.
Okay. So do you still have an interest in going to film school?
Yes. Yes, I do. Okay. Actually, I do.
All right. Locally, or you want to go to USC where all the legends are born, or what's your plan for that?
It'll probably be locally. Okay. Because I'm interested in visual effects, CGI, and different things like that in order to create the effects that I want on the different movies that I will plan on doing. So I need to learn those things.
Okay. Cleveland State is reputed to have a pretty decent film program. Have you looked at that as a possibility?
Yes, I was thinking about going there, and then COVID happened.
Okay. Well, it seems as though we're headed towards a different place in that regard. And I know that some coursework, if you're of a certain age, is actually accessible for free. So would you be taking advantage of that, or would you be trying to work to find some money to pay tuition?
I'll be taking advantage of that you talked about.
Okay. Well, I got a few things on my bucket list. And actually, I studied telecommunications when I was at Kent State way back in the day. But I found out about filmmaking after the fact, and I found out that Ohio University has a really good film program. But OU was a little bit too close to home for me, so I ended up going to Kent State instead. But there are a few decent film programs around here. Hopefully you will connect with one of them and expand your talents as a filmmaker. Are there other aspirations that you have besides the film and getting your book out?
Well, after I do the book, I would like to turn the book into an audio book. Then I would love for it to be like a short movie. So I would like for it to have like 3 phases. Mm-hmm. And then I would like to do some more books, maybe different monologues that I've written out.
Okay.
And put those into a book or whatever. But I would like to, start performing again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was going to be my next question. You mentioned working at Karamu with Terrence Spivey and Peter Lawson Jones. Have you returned to the stage? I mean, pre-pandemic or plans for post-pandemic?
Okay, well, I worked with Terrence and Peter. That wasn't at Karamu. That was when he started his Long Letter Productions.
Mm-hmm.
That was somewhere else. But I have worked at Karamu and East Cleveland Theater, Chagrin Valley Little Theater, and Palace Theater downtown. I've worked those places. But I really would like to do film. I'm not sure if I want to be on stage again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I'd have to imagine it's a little bit different when you do a theatrical production. 2 years ago, I was in a theatrical production, and I had to memorize all those lines. And, you know, it was just a 2-person play. So it was me, mm-hmm. It was the actress, and then she actually played 2 roles because she played herself and she played her mother through a puppet. Her name is Molly McFadden, and she did this play about her dealing with her mother's Alzheimer's disease. So she brought her mother to life with a puppet, and she had to memorize the bulk of the play, and I was just amazed at how she was able to do it. I know with films, you can memorize your lines for that scene, but you don't necessarily have to memorize the whole movie at one time. You know, so I've always been fascinated about how people are able to keep all of that dialogue and stage direction in their heads.
Yeah, it's I don't mind like memorizing the lines, you know, for stage. My thing is that for film, you can just do a certain movement and the camera catches it. But on stage, it's like the movement has to be sort of exaggerated. So for me, I'm just fascinated with the fact that, you know, I could just turn my eye to the left or to the right and the camera will catch it and understand what I'm saying. But on stage, it's hard to do that because the people all the way in the back row or whatever may not see your eye go from left to right.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
So those little things.
Right. The subtleties that come alive on film that may not necessarily be visible on stage unless you, as you just said, be extremely demonstrative or animated or, you know, gesture in such a way that people can get it even if they're at the back of the room.
Right.
Yes.
So that's why I like film.
Okay. And in terms of your choices for material, were there any genres that you gravitated towards, or were you just open to do anything?
Comedy.
Okay.
Comedy. I enjoy doing comedy.
Okay. Comedy is described as being extremely challenging, but you see some comedians that actually move towards dramatic roles, such as Chris Rock, who's done some dramatic roles. But then you have dramatic actors that try to move into comedy, and it's more of a challenge.
Right.
Yes.
It does seem like it's easier for a comedian to do a dramatic role than it is for a dramatic actor or actress to do a comedy.
Mm-hmm. And then you also have folks who are in the realm of hip-hop that transition from being hip-hop artists to being actors, you know, someone like Ice-T who successfully navigated that trail and has done quite well with it, and others. LL Cool J is another. You know, it's really something how people can just transform themselves into something that you would never expect.
Yes, I think, you know, a lot of the hip-hop people did extremely well, and they turned out to be, you know, really great actors.
Yes. Okay. Well, my prayer for you is that you achieve your dreams as the actress that you are and the writer that you are developing into and the filmmaker that's on your bucket list. Lynnette Howard, it's been a joy to have this conversation. Much success to you. If folks are interested in connecting with you, would you have them reach out to you, or are you just going to put that book together and then do that media blitz?
I think I'll put the book together and I'll start advertising it. And once I advertise it, then people will start knowing how to get in contact with me.
All right. Well, until that point, much success to you. Keep writing. As my friend LaShawn Phoenix Moore would say, keep banging ink. And when the book is ready to come out, give me a call and we'll have you back.
Thank you so much, Vince.
Thanks for being my guest. You're listening to Open Door with Vince Robinson on 95.9 FM WOVU.
WOVU 95.9 FM and the Cuyahoga County Board of Health wants you to do your part and help all of us stay safe from the threat of COVID-19. The best protection against COVID-19 is to wear a mask, avoid crowds, stay 6 feet apart from others, wash your hands often, and get the vaccine when you are able. To learn more information about the COVID-19 vaccine and how to register when it's your turn, visit the Cuyahoga County Board of Health website at ccbh.net. That's ccbh.net. Do your part because we're all in this together. This message is brought to you by the Cuyahoga County Board of Health and WOVU 95.9 FM, Burton Bell Carr Community Radio.
Welcome back to Open Door. Vince Robinson, and my guest is Sophii Appsolutelii, and she's wearing so many hats. I don't know which one to ascribe to her today, but I'm just going to use the community activist hat. She's got quite a few things going on this week, and I thought it would be good to have her on the show to tell us what's going on and how you can be a part of it. So welcome to Open Door, Sophie.
Hey, welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, so we can get right to it. What's happening?
Okay, let's get to it. I got a slew of events to read off here. We'll just start by saying shout out to The Circle, which is the organization myself and my partner, Iraq Beats, have put together. It's a network of just like soul family, a village, just trying to come together and do things in order to build and to heal. Also, shout out to Uplift Inc., who we're featuring during this week-long event, which is actually, let me get to the name of the event, which is Healing Through Our History. It's a Juneteenth week-long celebration with the tagline, to experience true freedom, we must heal. So thank you so much to Uplift Inc., who's going to be also helping and assisting with different things, and they have their own show, which I'll get to in a second. So we'll just start off by saying that it is free. Everything is free, family fun. Please wear your favorite red, black, or green. Starting off the week will be Monday, June 14th, Healing Through Our Stories. It's actually on Flag Day, which is a salute to the elders. What it is a bonfire storytelling event. All of the vendors will be elders. We're going to have libations, a drum call, and basically the doors open at 5. It's from 6 to 8, and it will be at the Africa House. Shout out to Akusika at 1695 East 81st Street, Suite number 1. Once again, that's the Africa House, 1695 East 81st Street, Suite number 1. And that is from 5 to 8. On Tuesday, we have Healing Through Our Music. It is a rhythm and release creative jam session. Actually, shout out to you, Vince, for coming out the last time we had one. That one is calling all musical artists and vocal expressionists, hosted by Iraq Beats. Come share your gift in a cipher-like setting. The time is from 6, ending promptly at 9. It's going to be at the Imagination Multipod, located off Lee and Superior at 1916 Lee Road. Again, Imagination Multipod at 1916 Lee Road. Please park in the back there. Wednesday, June 16th, Healing Through Transparency. That is the Bridging the Generational Gap discussion. And pretty much there, what we're going to be doing is just keeping it all the way real so that we can all heal. We're going to be discussing the major disconnection between the youth, the elders, and those in between. We'll just get into the nitty gritty of the conversation. And again, shout out to you, who will be one of the MCs, Mr. Vince Robinson, facilitated by myself, Sophii Appsolutelii, and Sierra Grant from Uplift, Inc. It's going to be at the African American Museum at 1765 Crawford Road. Again, African American Museum at 1765 Crawford Road. The time, 3 p.m. is the first guest speaker, which will be speaking. His name is Mike Williams. He'll be speaking on post-traumatic slave syndrome. Discussion is from 5 to 7 p.m. We will also have vendors there as well. Thursday, June 17th. Healing Through Our Words, Poetry Night and Trivia. The Poetry Night hosted by Dana Grant from Uplift Inc. and Alien Eye Player, featuring poets such as yourself. Shout out to the elders who are going to be in the building. Thank you, Vince and Brother Poet. Definitely appreciate you guys. And then also featuring our family, Ephraim Nehemiah and Young Black and Gifted. They're our main features for that particular day. Actually, they're our features for the whole week. Ephraim Nehemiah and Young Black and Gifted are pretty much our week-long events. So also showcasing poets such as Freedom, the Poet, Nicole Miller, Mix Rose, Quiet Kid, and more. The doors open at 5 with vendors. Actually, all the vendors are the poets. So definitely come support them. Poetry starts from 6 to 8. Doors open at 5. And that will be at the Bar Cafe. Food available upon purchase at 12635 Larchmere Boulevard. Once again, Bar Cafe, 12635 Larchmere Boulevard. We almost there, y'all. Then Friday, June 18th, Healing Through Our Creativity. That is Uplift Inc. Featuring pretty much is actually going to be at the Larchmere Arts Gallery at 12726 Larchmere Boulevard. And that is an art show featuring local artists and featuring sounds by #Virgo. If interested in being an artist, please contact Uplift Inc. at 216-282-3989. That time is from 7 to 9. Again, that is going to be a Coma art show sponsored by Uplift Inc.
Okay.
Saturday, we actually aren't doing anything ourselves. We're going to be promoting and showing up to all the other events that we've heard of, which is at least like 15 events. We're going to try to make it to as many as we can. But if you're interested in the list of a lot of those events, just contact us directly, which I'll give you that contact information soon. And then Sunday, June 20th, is Healing Through Celebration. It's a closeout Juneteenth celebration. It's another version of our Rhythm and Release brand, which is a freedom dance party featuring Afrobeats, reggae, and your favorite barbecue classics. Sounds by DJ Hurricane G, which is also an elder in the community. Come ready to support Black business. There'll be vendors, dance, eat for purchase, and play. Happy Father's Day on that day to all the fathers/mentors. So bring your dads. Also bring your own chairs and blankets, but the time is from 2 to 6 p.m. and it will be at the African American Cultural Gardens towards the top of the hill at 890 Martin Luther King Drive. If the weather does not permit, the event will be moved to the African American Museum. So again, just reach out to us and we can let you know where exactly it'll be hosted if not. So that really wraps up everything. Lastly, I just want to shout out Liquid Vision Films and Hype Squad Media, who will be capturing a lot of the events that day and just having, their cameras on deck and having footage and things of that nature. So definitely appreciate them. So, and of course, shout out again to Uplift Inc. We are the Circle, and definitely would love to see all of you guys out. Thank you.
So you've given us quite a bit to chew on. It's an ambitious undertaking, all the things that you have going on this week. If somebody wants to see all of those things listed in a concise way so that they can decide what they can do and what they can't do, where can they view that?
Sure. Actually, if you can, I do text marketing for now. We do not have a site as of yet, just working on that. But if you can contact me directly, you can contact me directly at 347, area code 347-731-0061. Once again, that's 347-731-0061, and just shoot me a text message saying, hey, I'm interested in receiving the flyer and this document as well that I read off of. I'm also sending that out as well. Another thing is, if you're on Instagram, you can also hit me up there, DM me directly. My name on there is at Sophii.Appsolutely, and that's SOPHII.APPSOLUTELII. You can also hit up E-Rock Beats on Instagram, a little bit easier to remember as well. He's EROCBEATZ, E-Rock Beats with a Z.
Okay. So if you can send me that information, and I think you probably already have, but if you have a flyer or something, what I can do is I can post it on my Larchmere Arts Facebook page, the 360 Info Network Facebook page, and my personal pages, and I'll be happy to post that so that folks can go one place and see all that stuff. And I got to add that in addition to all those other things that you have going on Saturday, I'm going to be doing a concert. It's a Juneteenth type concert. We're calling it Freedom Jazz. And so you'll be able to come and see the first full concert at Larchmere Arts since the pandemic hit us last year. So really excited about that. We just have a couple of minutes, and I just wanted to commend you for putting in all of this hard work. Juneteenth is something that Black folks in America have been sleeping on for a long time. Not all of us, because some of us are aware of what it means and how it all came about. But there are a lot of others who, on the 4th of July, we're going to be popping off fireworks and putting our ribs on the grill and, acting like we have something to celebrate on the 4th of July. But our 4th of July is actually Juneteenth, as well as December 18th. That's another date that folks aren't aware of. And we're going to talk about that sometime in the relatively near future. Definitely as we head towards December, because there's a brother who's really getting the word out about that. But it's just a beautiful thing that we got young folk that are involved in this, and I'm really gratified that you're addressing the intergenerational piece, because there is a divide between the old and the young, and in order for us to be what we need to be, we have to be cohesive. We can't be abrasive. We can't be disconnected. We must be connected, and we have to rely on the collective strengths that each group of us have. Young folks are tied to technology and understanding and social media and all that good stuff. And some of us who are a little bit longer in the tooth have no idea. We don't have a clue, can't get that stuff to work for us. I'm telling you, I work with folks around things dealing with cryptocurrency and stuff, and something as simple as getting a wallet on your phone, they struggle with that. Folks struggle with how to share a screen when you're on Zoom and you're there for like 5 minutes. Say, hey, there's a green tab on the bottom of the screen, and just tap on that, and you can see their face looking all over the screen on the computer, and they can't find it. But that's another story. But Sophie, it's been great to have you on the air, and again, I commend you for doing all the hard work. We're going to put your social media out, and folks can reach out and and do what they can do.
Thank you. And I want to also just add, thank you so much. Obviously, we said your name so many times throughout that reading. You just have been such an amazing support. Definitely shout out to you, and also want to extend the invite for people to reach out if they're interested in being a part of like a Juneteenth coalition for next year, so that we can just have like a Juneteenth month. And shout out to Mr. Antonio, who is also we're putting something together to just, it's so many events, you know what I'm saying? It literally is at least 17 events that I know of that are happening on Juneteenth. So to be able to figure out a way so that we don't all have to overlap and everyone can kind of support each other as much as possible. So let's make this a month, you know?
Right. Well, we're going to give folks something to think about and something to do at the same time. Thanks for joining me on Open Door. And thank you for listening. Know yourself, love yourself, be yourself. Make today your best day. Peace.